This is our book review, Chinese Cinderella by Ko, Emma Kocho, and Julie Lee.
Chinese Cinderella is an autobiography based on a story of an unwanted daughter. The author's Chinese name is Junling, and her English name is Adeline. As she was born as the fifth child, her mother came down with a high fever 3 days after her birth and later died. Her older siblings hated and never forgave her for that sole reason. Later, their father remarried and had 2 more children, in which they were heavily favored over the original 5 children, with Junling getting the most mistreatment.
Junling is the child that receives the most abuse from her parents and even from her siblings. While Junling did get support and love from her aunt and grandfather, she still had to go through so much but still pushed through. All the hate from her family piled up, in which at one point her stepmother, Nyang, banished her out of her home multiple times and ended up in a boarding school and orphanage, where the adults there wouldn't treat her well and no one from her family wrote to her.
While Julie deals with her cruel family, she resolves to work hard in order to receive recognition from her father. In spite of how excellent Julie is in all schools, she rarely receives praise from anyone else, while Nyang, the stepmother, and her siblings continue to harass and criticize her for her work due to the family's sheer resentfulness and envy. Nevertheless, Julie works hard to stand up to her own expectations and continues to survive the torture caused by her own family, in which eventually she earns her father's pride and recognition by winning a national playwriting competition and was allowed to attend a university abroad.
This is the kind of book where once you pick up the book, it's really hard to put down. You would constantly wonder how the author would deal with her next trials with all the odds stacked against her. The authors wrote down her heart-wrenching pain so descriptively, it made our hearts rip apart page after page. The world of despair she had to live in reassures us of how our world today has improved on discipline and care, and that there's less kids having to go through the same beating and discrimination Junling had to endure.
Junling would get beaten until there's blood trickling freely from her nose onto the floor, get yelled at from her elder siblings because she led her own class for a week, and she would be treated like a leper and even tell this, that she doesn't like herself. However, though her lives may seem like an endless pit of solemn anguish, the occasional appearance and encouragement of her yeye also tells us that there's always some kind of light in a long, dark tunnel. With his wisdom he piled up over this life, he tells Junling that she has her whole life ahead of her, that everything is possible, and that she is precious and special.
Her actions and journeys should be conveyed to the self-depreciating people today, and again reminds us of how relevant this story is to this day and to other unfortunate individuals. Julie took Yeye's advice to heart and tried her best to apply herself. Her tenacity, grit, and passion under such conditions is exemplary and should be perceived as a role model if one wants to be successful in their lives.